most of us have never been to the G20 summit or any summit like of that sort, and most of us never will. But you were there, you were one of the key organizers of such events. And some were comparing the forthcoming summit to the 1933 summit, during which leaders of the world spent weeks discussing, addressing the challenges. And now we're spending just one single day, 24 hours, 20 leaders of different worlds speaking different languages. How can we get things done in one single day? How does it work as an insider?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, the world works faster today. It just does. So, you know, the days when leaders met for several weeks, I mean, those days are over. The leaders are lucky if they get a day. But, of course, there's an immense amount of preparation that goes into the summit. And, therefore, out of the summit, you tend to get decisions taken that otherwise wouldn't have been taken. So that's the purpose of it. And you also get, when you're sitting face-to-face around the table with the other leaders, you get a sense of where they're coming from. You start to, you know, learn how other countries see things. And certainly I used to find that as a leader very, very useful and very informative. I think the G20, I mean, it's the most important summit that's happened for quite a time on the international stage, and I think it will result in agreement at least as to the principles of action. And it's incredibly important. It happens at a time of immense financial crisis. People are looking to the world's leaders for answers, for solutions, and I'm sure there will be a great sense of coming together and determination to find a solution.
在布莱尔担任英国首相的10年间，英国的 GDP 年均增长2.3%，年均失业率仅为4%左右，处于上世纪70年代以来的最低水平。居民人均工资保持了4%的增长态势。与欧盟几乎所有的成员国长期饱受低增长和高失业的折磨相比，英国被认为是欧洲最健康、最强壮和最成功的经济体。然而，在金融危机的阴影下，英国经济正在经历2战以来最为严峻的危机，失业率成倍增长。08年第4季度 GDP 同比下降2%，创下1980年以来最大单季降幅。
Most people are talking about the stimulus package. The U.S. is very keen to get the European nations to introduce more aggressive stimulus package, and the Europeans accusing U.S. of not spending enough because they say the $800 billion fiscal package is merely probably $200 billion in reality. Do you think fiscal package is important?
And the truth is, so far, neither of the packages has been implemented. You know, this will take time to put in place. So, to be frank, arguing about whether it should be X billion or Y billion is less important than getting the packages underway and also making sure, as China's doing here, that these investment packages address some of the long-term issues with our economy. For example, you know, how do we invest in alternative energy, you know, so that we're preparing our economy for a different type of future? And we'll get through it, and we'll have to get through it. And, you know, I think the important thing about this situation is to try and see how we turn the crisis into an opportunity. You know, I think in Chinese, is crisis an opportunity. I love that.
但是在经济形势恶化的情况下，为保证自己国家的企业渡过难关，不少国家在经济刺激方案中都会设定贸易保护条款，限制他国商品进入。全球范围内都呈现了贸易保护主义的趋势。早在去年1月的世界经济论坛达沃斯年会上，布莱尔就对贸易保护主义提出了警告。在采访中，他再次强调了他的观点。
Another interesting question is protectionism. You're very keen to voice your concerns about protectionism, and the reality is 17 of the 20 nations at the G20 summit have introduced protectionist policies since the Washington summit. Would you interpret that way as well? And what might be some of the concrete steps that the G20 summit leaders can do?
I do fear that countries faced with this crisis will opt for front door or back door protectionism, and in my view both are wrong. You know, the last thing the world needs at the moment is barriers erected to trade. On the contrary, I think it would be a great thing if we had a successful world trade round negotiated. And, you know, this is difficult. There are a lot of political pressures that come on leaders at this time, you know, protect our jobs, look after our country. But if I'm right in saying we live in a globally integrated economy, then that attitude actually undermines the way that global economy works. So I personally am very strongly opposed to protectionism. I think it never works, and it usually makes a bad problem worse.
另外呢，今天我们还连线采访了在华盛顿的卡内基国际和平基金会的高级研究员盖保德。卡内基国际和平基金会啊，是美国著名的智库，不妨一同来听听看，他对于 G20 都有一个什么样的期待。Hello, Dr. Cato. We had a privilege to interview you last time in the Washington summit. How is this summit in London different from the last time?
Well, the coming G20 meeting will be quite different from the last one because the United States has new leadership. The new presidency under President Barack Obama and his new appointees represents a fresh start for the United States, and it's a much more active presidency in dealing with this crisis. I think the G20 meeting will focus on two issues in particular. One is how to revive demand in the U.S. economy, and the other would be how to fix the financial system. These are the two immediate needs. The regulatory needs of how to design a better regulatory system is more long-term. So all three will be a focus, but the two that need immediate attention.
Financial sector is deeply affected by this crisis. What do you think we should do to restore the financial system and maintain the healthy development?
They also need to figure out how to keep their financial systems operating and healthy without rewarding those who made mistakes in creating the risks and the crisis that we're in now. And maybe the best way to do that is eventually to turn over ownership of many of these financial institutions to governments around the world. That's already happening in a big scale, so that in the future they can be resold to new owners rather than just rewarding the former owners who behaved in such irresponsible ways.
每天，让心灵度一次假。樱花电热水器，创造安心境界。